never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Weekly Review. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me tonight, as always, is my boy. He is the dead man of RWT, Mr. Paul Morales. How are you, Paul?
I am blessed and well, Mr. Michael Larkin. I am here. You are here. We are here for another episode of this show that we call the Weekly Review. And, of course, we're here to do the damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you, man. It has been another weekend professional wrestling, from pay-per-views, from just overall bananasness, that B-A-N-A-N-A-S, as Gwen Stefani once sang. I think the best way to start, and there's going to be some ups, there's going to be some downs in this topsy-turvy show, but I think the best way to start is because he's also been making some moves, not good moves, I should say, but moves nonetheless. Uncle Dave is at it again, and the clip I'm about to play for everybody is this. Was from the Keeping It 100 live stream that Conan did. This was the same one where pretty much Uncle Dave, out of nowhere, just says, and we'll start even with this before I play this clip, your thoughts on pretty much Dave Meltzer saying that right now Bryan Danielson is more over than CM Punk. And for that, I say, what? Dave, have you not been hearing the reaction that CM Punk has been getting? Have you not been hearing everything, the noise that he's been putting? And I love Bryan Danielson to death, and we will get him to more into this show. But what were your thoughts on the fact that he said that Bryan Danielson is more over than Punk? And then we'll get to his other quote about Punk.
I'm at the point where I'm already thinking that Dave's in Tony's pocket.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already at that point to where I'm thinking Dave is pretty much lining his pocket with anything that Tony can hand him, because everything seems to be so much more negative on WWE and positive on AEW as of late. You see it, I see it, you people see it. As far as him being more over, yeah, no.
Oh.
Look, I get it. Perception is very different. I get it. In AEW, you know what? He's still Bryan Danielson, whatever name you want to look at him as. Yes, he's still that over. Yes. I know it's trademarked and everything, but hey, you know what? Fuck you, WWE. But yes. Look, we know no matter where Bryan goes, he's gonna get that pop. But as significant as that pop is anywhere else, Pepsi Phil is still getting that exact same pop no matter where he goes. So if you want to talk about who's getting the bigger pop and what city that they're in, I don't know. Depends on where you're at. Go to Chicago. Watch Pepsi Phil come out, and all of a sudden you hear that crowd just go nuts. We heard it on Saturday with Bryan Danielson. As soon as that final countdown hit, the crowd went nuts. So hometown crowds, pop bigger for their hometown guys.
I look at it like this, and I agree wholeheartedly about the hometown crowd and the hometown boys getting the reception that they did, especially like you mentioned, Bryan coming out to the final countdown, which led to the style of the ECW match like we have at New Jack that AEW is now christened, with them fighting through their theme song. I mean, I look at it like this, and I love both of these gentlemen, but I think with also, like we talk about perception, the way that it's been booked, CM Punk has been in the feud of the year with Drew McIntyre for 9 months. We mentioned how many times they hardly ever touch. Then we get to their trilogy, and it's absolutely amazing, spectacular fashion. And then you get Bryan, who's been wrestling, Jungle Boy, and all these guys, and now the Moxley feud that just comes out of nowhere. It's sporadicness that just has really killed what we get to see with these builds, because it's more flying off the seat of your pants that Tony books, which brings me to this clip as we are about to play here, folks. This was Tony talking to Conan, Conan and Dave Meltzer talking about Tony Khan, the backstage issues on the podcast that Conan has heard firsthand, and instead of fixing the issues is insane. This is Dave Meltzer's reaction because this has gotten a lot of talk in the discourse as far as YouTube goes, and Dave Meltzer actually doing a show. And the funny part of this, Paul, I don't think you realize is Disco Fever, who is normally on with Conan. Dave Meltzer and him have had a couple of tips. So Dave Meltzer did this because, Disco Inferno was not, and Disco Inferno would have called Dave Meltzer out in his BS. But we didn't get that. Nonetheless, here is the clip of Conan, Dave Meltzer, keeping it 100. Here's Dave.
Let me tell you this, Dave. So I went into the dressing room one day because I'd gone there to film something, right? And I went and I was in catering, and I could not believe how many people came up to me and were dissatisfied about something or the other, which I was like, well, that's normal in AAA too, right? But I had, Andrade come up to me. I had Thunder Rosa come up to me and basically said, I'm going to beat, Andrade wanted to beat Sammy. The other wanted to fight with Britt Baker, okay? Everybody knew about the acrimony between, Punk and these people. And I came on the podcast and I alluded to it. I didn't come straight out and say it. And Tony sent me this text like, I can't believe you're saying, well, then fix the problem, you know? And he didn't. And to tell you the truth, just quick thing, I would have sat them down, and whoever didn't want to do business, I had to get rid of them.
Yeah. Your thoughts on Conan, who does do a lot of work as far as AAA goes and booking and promotion wise. Your thoughts on what Conan had to say about what Tony sent him via text and Dave Meltzer's reaction to the whole thing.
Look, I don't think Conan even remotely knows what the hell he's doing anymore. I mean, that's just being honest. I mean, he has no idea what the hell he's doing. Yeah, he's good at booking specific, specific matches for CMLL. Okay, cool, fine, dandy. But if you're not producing everything on a weekly basis, for the company, then you ain't got shit to say.
Right.
Now, here's the thing, is that you're not producing anything for AEW. Nothing. You could just come in, very well, please say what's up to whoever you want to, and then bounce out. It's not like Tony's going to stop you and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or, hey, what do you think of these ideas? Or, hey, I want you to come in and help me do this. He ain't going to call him to ask him anything, to come in and help him with shit.
Nope. It's not.
As far as like Dave's reaction was probably about everybody else's reaction. It's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it's just the way that type of overall reaction that you would get with Dave and just everything generalized there, which brings me to, I was going to do the ratings, but I'm like, you know what? We'll do this one next of Uncle Dave, because you and I laughed out loud at this because we mentioned the aforementioned CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud. Probably one of the best Hell in a Cell matches ever. So amazingly done with the story that they told. So this fan wrote, Punk versus McIntyre was a better cell match and had a better story leading into it than Cody versus Rollins, which got 5 stars. And mind you, love Cody and Seth, especially Cody fighting through all that pain that he went through with the torn pec. That was also amazing. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be given the same or even a higher star rating. And of course, Uncle Dave had to respond to this. And Dave Meltzer says, I strongly disagree. Drama and compellingness much stronger in Rhodes versus Rollins, plus had a realness and insanity about it. Agree, better story leading into Punk versus McIntyre, but I'm not ready story leading into it. Dave, you hypocritical, you stupid son of a bitch. And I know why you're saying this, Dave, because you can't stand CM Punk, because CM Punk called you and Alvarez out on your bullshit, because the fact, again, it goes back to the start of what we saw with Brawl Out and Brawl In, what have you, because the Young Bucks said that the reason why Cabana wasn't on AEW TV was because of you, which was not true. And Dave Meltzer runs with whatever the Young Bucks tell him because they're homies. So that is where we are. Just say you don't like CM Punk. It's okay, Dave. We all know. So, yeah.
Yeah, just say you don't like Pepsi Phil. Just say that. Say you do not like Pepsi Phil and be done with it. Say you don't like specific wrestlers for whatever godforsaken reason you don't like them. Just say it. Look, you're not here to please everybody. You're just here to please the people who like you. which at this point is pretty much far few and in between, and that's including Bryan Alvarez, who can barely stand your ass, but yet you're still on his show.
I think that's so funny. That's like the best thing I love. And you and I have talked about Meltzer and Alvarez a lot within this very start of this program. But ever since like we've brought the fact of them having their tips, it's hilarious because I'm like, finally, Bryan is starting to realize I am working with the numbnuts. And it comes out to fruition because he calls Dave out his bullshit. And I love that. And speaking of
the only thing that gets me is that Bryan doesn't call him out on enough bullshit, then that it just makes Bryan kind of look like I'm just going to go along with this, even though he's saying it. And even though I think he's fucking half-wit, I'm still going to go along with it. But then when I figure out that enough is enough, then I'll call him out on his bullshit. But if you aren't doing it consistently, then you're just there to fucking listen to his ass because you want the ratings because he's Dave Alvarez.
I mean, with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
I mean, Dave Meltzer. Sorry, my bad. Look at even I'm old and senile. Shit, I forget shit too. I suffered from CRS. Can't remember shit.
I like that. CRS can't remember shit. Okay. But no, man, it's the Meltzer Alvarez, and also the fact I'm going to say this right now. I also love when Dave goes, Bryan, because God forbid Bryan doesn't say Bryan like that. It just, yeah, it's, oh, man, it makes me laugh. And also the fact that Bryan should just say, hey, Dave, no fucking shit, because Meltzer's latest thing on the Observer was, oh, maybe AEW should run lesser arenas. You think? Smaller arena. You think, Dave? You don't say. And speaking of you don't say, Meltzer, everybody was like, okay, finally, he's being bluntly honest with this. As you could see with this, well, no fucking crap, Dave Meltzer. Damn, no excuses. He said, because we're going to talk about the ratings, because holy shit. NXT did 874K and 0.24 in the demographic. AEW did 329K, 0.10 in the demographic last night. It's very clear at this point, AEW's audience, unlike 2 years ago, is choosing WWE, and they have less of an exclusive audience than before. Yeah, exactly what you just said. And we say it every week. And mind you, yes, they started at 9 p.m. They went head-to-head with NXT's Final Hour, which featured Randy Orton and Javon Evans, which I'm going to say right now, go back and watch that match. The maturity of Randy Orton, just the miss of the RKO, and then he picks him up for it again, and then he could have done like the old Kofi Kingston, stupid, but Randy Orton has maturity. He told him he's the fucking man, and they hugged and embraced, and it was a very good showing for Javon Evans. They also competed with Sexer Red's performance and Ethan Page saying that's enough of that, which was hilarious. And their first hour was pretty much just Moxley and Bryan in the ring and the promos and everything. It was very promo driven on their show back on Tuesday. So, I mean, your thoughts on the ratings and Dave Meltzer's thoughts here in regards to said ratings going head to head.
We're going to go back to the same thing that we said last week.
Okay.
We want to talk about everything, the ratings being as low as they are. Also going to start saying, well, such and such was that week, such and such, this sporting event was taking over, and then we had the season opening of the hockey season opening, or he's going to use baseball as the reason why, or he's going to use football as the reason why. I mean, he always has excuse after excuse after excuse, and he's going to say, oh, well, that takes away from what wrestling sees. I'm sorry, Dave, but if wrestling fans want to watch wrestling, they're going to watch wrestling, whether it's live or it's recorded on the East or on the West Coast. It's either one or the other. But the ratings, if the ratings are specifically to one coast, then it's kind of fucked up because you're not going to get the exact same ratings. So what it is live may not be 3 hours later here on the West Coast. It may the ratings may be different because a lot of those sporting events have already finished. You get what I'm saying, right? A lot of those sporting events start at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. But that's now, mind you, the start times for those were on the East Coast, were like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So by the time it gets here, those sporting events are already done. So guess what? A lot of those fans who didn't get to watch it then are going to watch it on the West Coast. You know what I'm saying though is like the ratings is going to fluctuate no matter what.
Let's like the Carolina Panthers here. Like that football game was on when NXT and all them were going on Tuesday. So I mean, we had our football games wrapping up, much like Paul said. But again, I always go back to the thing of just like much like Dave said it. I mean, we'll talk about the inconsistencies of AEW too, and I'm also going to play because we talked about it last week, and Paul and I, my fellow brother and ranting over here, went on about Chris Statlander and the whole Camille thing making no fucking sense. We will play Chris Statlander's promo in a second of how they tried to fucking explain this. Born again Kristen, no, and the fact that they're trying to make sense of their flying off the seat of the pants. But I had to go back to NXT because, again, great show, like we mentioned, Randy Orton and Javon Evans. A-Town Down Under against Fraxium. We saw Julia and Stephanie Vaquer in there interacting with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. And the fact that tomorrow, as we're recording this, Stephanie Vaquer makes her in-ring debut against Ren Sinclair in NXT, which should be very, very good. Something else came out of NXT, and Paul and I laughed about it, and we had a very good laugh just because we are brothers, and we're also kind of perverts, but not to the extent of this gentleman. So we're going to talk about it. There was an incident last week, ladies and gentlemen. So NXT Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri, a man was allegedly caught trying to take photos of the feet of female talent as they made their way through the hotel and was ejected not once, but twice from the location. Damn it, Roxanne and Cora, I will take a picture of your feet. No one can stop me. Lash Legend, you don't even need to whoop this trick. I will take a picture of the feet. Come over here. Stephanie Vaquer, Sexy Red, Julia, everybody, I want to take some feet pics. Paul, your thoughts on this incident?
Well, everybody's got a leg up.
Oh!
Everybody needs a hobby. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look. This is some outlandish shit. Now, I have no problem with people having fetishes or whatever, but hey, you know what? If he got kicked out once, how the hell did he end up coming back in the second time?
I don't know how.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What kind of security did they have in that hotel that they couldn't keep that man out of there from taking pictures of these women's feet? That's what I'm wondering.
I'm thinking he went through the first time through the lobby, and then the second time it's just he probably went through a side or back entrance, and he was like doing the little roll through, a little army crawl. I got to take a picture of these feet. He found a way to get back in there.
Maybe he took a picture of all the left feet, had to come back in, and had to take the picture of the right feet, foot.
You put your
had to take a picture of the left foot, had to come back in and take a picture of the right foot. That's why he got ejected twice. See, he had unagi. See, he had to figure out a plan. He had to think of a master plan. Ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. You know what I'm saying?
I was also going to go the hokey pokey.
It's like jumping rope with a razor blade. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying?
I feel you. Also, you could do the hokey pokey. His left foot in, his left foot out, right foot in.
Exactly. See?
I got you. But yeah, that was what we had. NXT in St. Louis with the feet fix. People are nuts. People are freaks. But hey, man, 'tis what it is. And now, speaking of 'tis what it is, this goes back to AEW, as this is something I thought was very interesting because of who's in AEW now. Word spread backstage and among AEW talent that on MVP's first night in AEW, he went straight to Chris Jericho's locker room. While specifics of their conversation weren't disclosed, those within AEW said their past issues was resolved and won't be a problem going forward. MVP was praised by numerous backstage for addressing the issue directly. MVP and Jericho have been seen since interacting backstage since then, including last week's Dynamite. So from a man who got knocked out on his own cruise ship and to everything that happened with them in a hotel, MVP and Jericho are bosom buddies. They made amends. See, that's what it is. You got to talk it out, man.
Yeah, see, and then what happens is Punk goes in there, and all of a sudden, there's all kinds of ruckus.
There is ruckus.
Not Uncle Ruckus. That's a completely different story. That's a completely different type of ruckus. But I mean, Punk goes in, he says his piece, and all of a sudden, there's some ruckus.
And then
here we go with MVP going up in there. They have a nice conversation, and boom,
everything's
cool. They dabbing it up, what's up, throwing up gang signs with each other. You know what I'm saying? They cool. They got a new handshake. Hoo hoo. whatever works for them. You know what I'm saying?
I now have an image of Chris Jericho trying to do gang signs and try to go, bah, bah, you know what I'm saying with MVP. Just I don't need that image in my head, but now it is, and I can't stop laughing.
Or he might do, that old entrance that MVP used to have after he come out. He goes, "I'm coming," with his hands out like this, and he all like this. What's up, man? That's their handshake now. That's their secret handshake. I swear that's what's gonna happen.
You know what's sad about that is I remember that song when he first debuted in 06 and the Reckless Intent CD. So for those that don't know, MVP's theme song used to be I'm Coming by Silk the Shaka, and who was also on Make 'Em Say, na 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 na, na 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 na. And the fact of the matter is that MVP hated that song, which still kind of hurts my soul a little because that song was a banger.
It was a banger.
And he hated it. He hated that song so much.
I still got it on the Spotify playlist. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a banger, man. It's a banger.
It is a banger. And speaking of banger, well, not
I
really.
make the say,
na 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 na.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of bangers.
Speaking of na na na.
Na na na. Just bangers like you want to bang your head up against the fucking wall. So this goes back to NXT because that goddamn son of a bitch, Jim Cornette, was on his podcast, and he criticized Obafemi's accent, and I quote, "What kind of accent is that? He sounds like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America." I want to know where the fuck he's from, that he's got that accent. Is that a real accent or a put-on accent? And here is Jim Cornette.
So I skipped ahead, and Oba opened his mouth, and I said, "Oh, fuck no. God damn it."
Well, what's the problem with him?
I'm looking at this guy. If he could talk like Ernie Ladd and just work a little bit, holy mackerel, you can draw some money with this guy. He opens his mouth. He sounds like Prince Nana. What kind of accent is he? Sound like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America.
It's probably an accent.
Can we go to Queens? What the?
It's his accent. What do you want him to do?
I want to know where the fuck he's from, first of all, that he's got that accent. Is that a real accent or is that a put-on accent? If it's put on, he needs to drop it. And
he's from Nigeria.
Oh.
Jim, it's real fucking. He's from Nigeria.
He's from fucking Nigeria.
Oh, and man, this got so. Oh man, the people are like, oh, Jim Cornette being racist again. Well, no, for that I will say no. But number two, he literally does not understand. There are people and wrestlers that are from Nigeria and whatnot, and Jim just can't fathom or put that into perspective. This is literally how Obafemi talks because Jim doesn't watch the product. All he does is fucking criticize it. So it's like, Jim, it's his actual accent, Jim. He's from Nigeria. He has even said he would love NXT to go to Africa. He recently did an interview with Obafemi, which I would love to see. Give me a takeover in Africa. We've been all over the world. Africa would be nice. But yeah, Jim, what the fuck? What the fuck, Jim? And Bryan had to even correct you. Jim, he's from Nigeria. Oh, Jim Cornette.
That's the worst part. It's fucking Jim Cornette coming out. And now that wasn't racist. I'm sorry that a lot of people want to, kind of go that route, but that wasn't racist. He wasn't being racist towards him. He was specifically talking about the damn accent, about his accent.
Right.
And the fact that this dumbass thought that it was fake.
There was a war.
Dude and obviously you're from Nigeria, you're going to have an accent. Much like South Africans still have that poignant accent. If you've ever heard anybody from South Africa, I mean, they really, really have that twang.
Justin Gabriel.
Justin Gabriel. Yeah, exactly. That's somebody who has that South African, it's just, where it's from. It's the dialect that it comes, and you can hear it in their voices.
Two perfect examples, Justin Gabriel and Adam Rose, Leo Kruger at the time. Yes, Adam Rose is from South Africa. You look at it like this too as well. I'll point another one. Yes, I know in Apollo Crews they made him put on that accent, but he does have relatives from Nigeria.
Yeah,
he's been
Kofi Kingston. I'm Jamaican, man.
You're making me crazy, Kofi. I'm Jamaican, man. Looks like there's
Hey, what happened to your all I want to know is what happened to your accent?
Didn't you used to be Jamaican?
Exactly.
Fucking so good.
That's not the point. That's not the point.
Kofi. Oh, you gotta
God
love.
damn it!
Ah,
And
and
look, the
speak-
great Khali, great Khali.
he's from India. That's his
Punjabi.
legit
He's
accent.
Punjabi. You can
Punjabi.
hear it in his damn accent.
Yep.
And you can hear it when Canadians speak.
Bret Hart. The
That's
whole Hart family.
yeah, exactly. You can hear it.
What's that all about?
What's that all about?
Well, I'm
Anyway,
gonna ask.
okay, we're done with accents. I'm sorry. Let's continue.
No,
keep
you're
going.
fine. I was going to lead into here's what this is all about. This one, and people have been blaming Jimmy Jacobs for bad creative in AEW. I'm like, it starts at the top. Do not blame this man, as we see in this story. Jimmy Jacobs has left AEW. Jacobs had worked closely with Tony Khan, and the company is looking to use the chance to freshen up creatively, we're told. And they put up the interview of that Jimmy Jacobs there where he's like, first of all, he didn't hate Daniel Garcia. He just said, I didn't feel that Daniel Garcia was a star, because I think a lot of the creative process that Tony was really wanting to put into as well was on Daniel fucking Garcia. And Jimmy Jacobs was like, he's not that guy. He's not that guy that you think he is, which I'm going to say, and I like Daniel Garcia. Jimmy Jacobs happens to be accurate in that. This is the same guy who also wrote The List, and Jimmy Jacobs has given us a lot of great stuff. But Jimmy is off of AEW. Will Washington is still there. And we have others on the creative team that are still there. But Jimmy Jacobs, who worked very hand-in-hand with Tony, is now gone. Do you see him going back to the WWE? Do you see him going to TNA? Because he had a vocal point in TNA as well not too long ago. What are your thoughts on Jimmy Jacobs and his exit from AEW?
I think he had a poignant career in TNA. I think he was very he had some good moments in TNA. Now, do I think he'll go back to the W? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that Trips is pretty much happy with what he has and the people that he has in place. And Jimmy was pretty much one of those Vince guys. He wasn't so much a Triple H guy. He was on Vince's staff. So him going back, I don't know. I don't want to say yes. There's also that never say never prospect. Look, you wanted somebody to blame. You want to sit here in AEW. We could sit here and blame, to the high heavens, who we think what the problem is or who the problem is in AEW. We all know who the problem is in AEW, and it starts with a T and ends with a K. Oh, I'm sorry. His first name. Okay, well, it's TK. Okay, those are the initials. They're TK. That's it.
That's it. But
because like VKM, we know who that is. We know where everything started and ended with in WWE. We all know it was Vincent Kennedy McMahon as to why everything either went good or went completely fucking off the rails horrible.
Well, also speaking of off the rails, I will also play. So this one, I'm not going to play it now. I'll probably play it later, but I will say we are definitely going to play in today's show, folks. Because again, very AEW heavy in today's show, but also some great stuff within the week of wrestling. I'm just going to say Paul Morales, and I'm going to play it. Can you believe that? And I know there was not a long media scrum, but can you believe nobody asked Mariah May questions? She was just sitting there like, hello, anybody want to ask me some questions? Oh my goodness. We'll get to that in a minute, but oh boy, Ricky Starks.
I have to say the one thing about that media scrum was bad.
Oh, okay. We'll touch upon it after Ricky Starks. All right, here we go. So Ricky Starks, he addressed his absence from AEW TV, confirming he isn't injured. So this is from High Spot's Sign It Live, and here I quote the excerpt from the interview. No, I am not out of action due to injury. I'm healthy. I'm of sound mind and body. I'm capable to wrestle. Just not up to me. I get a lot of messages lately where people are like, hey, just checking in on you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're mentally okay. And it's so sweet. It means a lot to me because these people don't know what's going on, right? But yeah, I get a lot of messages, and every time I read them, I tear up because people still, they care, I love them. I wish I could give an answer. I'm healthy. I'm ready to get back in the ring. I'm in shape, obviously. Always been in shape. Sometimes it just isn't up to me, I guess, as they say. So I love wrestling, and I'm not going to figure out a way to do it one way or another. But, I at least think I owe fans some type of explanation to the best of my ability, to the best of my knowledge. So some people don't want to believe that. That's fine. I don't give a fuck. Your thoughts on Ricky Starks talking about his no injury? He's just waiting for something to happen. Bada bing, bada boom, and his overall thoughts on it.
Okay. In all honesty, I just think they don't have anything for him.
Agreed.
And that's the bad part, is because such a great talent. He's such a great wrestler, and he's such a phenomenal figure in the company. And we discussed like the pillars of who are in this company, of who we think the pillars should be.
Right.
And Ricky Starks should be a pillar in this company. He should be one of the 4 pillars in this company. Behind next to MJF, next to it's Ricky, it's Darby, it's MJF, and you could pick a 4th if you want to. But I mean, you could pretty much choose anybody that you think that could be a pillar in this company. I mean, the future of this company pretty much lies on a lot of these, on as far as like the men's side, because I just feel like Ricky is one of those guys that could just go out and work with anybody. It isn't gonna matter. Ricky is one of those guys that it could just either put on a great match or put over somebody that he feels should be put over. He's pretty much the alternative to who Daniel Bryan would be.
I concur with that. I mean, from his inception in NWA as the Stroke Daddy and his inception to AEW during the pandemic era, dude has been so good. FTW champion. I mean, he's another one of those guys that really works his butt off, works his tail off. He can talk. He has charisma. He carries himself like a superstar. But, I mean, what really took him out is, like, he didn't want to feud with Big Bill because they were the former tag team champions. And he didn't feel like it would mean anything. And I mean, now we have Chris Jericho and Big Bill, and that's doing wonders. So, I mean, it's Ricky wants the right creative, much like a lot of them do. Tony has been putting them in shitty creative. It's also like, if you have something for me, cool. But if you have something for me that's going to suck, I'm not going to fucking do it. So,
but I'm under the impression that if what would be best for him is to leave AEW.
Agreed.
And that's just me. But depending upon if he's still under contract or if he is under contract, how much more time does he have left on this contract? Or is Tony going to do what he did to Penta or to Phoenix and just add on time because he's not using him? That would totally suck.
Well, we shall see. And another segue by the great Paul Morales over here. Speaking of something that sucked, and then we'll turn away from AEW and we'll get to some more stories. I think there's only one other one I'll mention with AEW, and then one of them has to do with the pay-per-view, but we'll come back to it. So this was the post-show. So, of course, they do the media scrum. Tony's not there because of an angle we'll touch upon in a little bit. So it's just Nigel and Tony Schiavone, and there was only 3 people on that media scrum. It was who you're about to see in this clip, Mariah May, that got a lot of talk, Swerve, and to the Konosuke Takeshita and Don Callis, and that was legit the media scrum. And this sucked. It was awkward because they had to sell the angle, but it started with Mariah May, who is the AEW World's Women's Champion there, and she beats Willow Nightingale, which we mentioned. It makes no doggone sense, but she did get a victory that night, and she goes to the media scrum, and these people, there was only one question for him from bodyslam.net. One guy asked the question, and then crickets. So here's the crickets.
So please raise your hand and we'll get you to the microphone. Any questions for Mariah May, who is still the women's world champion?
Don't be shy. What's
Please.
wrong? You guys don't like women's wrestling?
Okay.
Do you have any questions? You
Please-
guys like to
please don't be
tweet a lot?
shy.
Any other questions?
I apologize for
Anything
being honest.
interesting to add? Anyone?
Last call, anyone? I think they are just stunned by the glamour. And, thank you very much for taking the time
Good
to
work,
be
guys. You
here.
have a bright future in media.
Thank you. So
You could tell, like, she was quite perturbed that nobody was asking any questions. And Nigel saved it at the end there because Nigel's a fucking pro. But yeah, nobody wanted to ask her a question. She had one fucking question, and from bodyslam.net, and that was it. And then what you saw there, folks, crickets. So your thoughts on that everybody was talking about from the media scrum?
I think that's pretty harsh because if you look at how her facial expression was,
Yes.
it's like you remember when she would come into the scrum and Tony was there, and how many hands would go up and ask Tony questions, and everybody would want to ask her because she was there, and then she would go into this whole long old speech, and something she had pre-wrote, or
Yeah, like Tony
whatever,
Storm.
or
It's a Tony Storm.
Tony would read it, and then she'd be like, you left something out, or blah blah blah.
Oh, I love you,
But
Tony.
in Mariah's defense, you know what?
Yeah.
She doesn't have that same aura as
Tony Storm.
Tony Storm does. But if she would come off as being a more of a heel and being more bitchy and asking, trying to be, and no offense to it, I don't mean to be and use such a harsh term, but
Right.
I mean, but bitchy is kind of like the same attitude that Tony would have, and for being the AEW Women's Champion, I think she just should have like lashed out on the media, like, oh well, you could come over here and ask Tony Storm shit. Well, why can't you ask me anything? Why can't you go out, and do some heel shit? And she did nothing. She just like, okay, Nigel saved it, and boom, I got up and left. And it's like, but why? Why wouldn't you just want to take the moment? And this could have just progressed her character. She could literally have moved her character from where it was at to another stratosphere. I mean, literally, she could have skyrocketed herself with just a promo in that moment, and she didn't take the chance of it.
I think too, to add to your point, which again beautifully stated, Mr. Paul Morales, I think she didn't have like that right, like, oh, you can ask Tony Storm something, but also at the same time, I think she's still, and I love Mariah May, I really do. I think she's doing some great work, but she's still pretty green. She's still relatively new. So I think she will get it, even in the immense time of pressure like we saw there. I think she'll get it, and I think she'll continue to do her thing as we progress within her story, because, Mina Shirakawa's coming up next, and Tony Storm, and we're going to have that interaction once more, but we shall see. And speaking of interaction, we're going to go to our boys over at Busted Open, and we call them our boys because Paul loves them, and Paul has introduced me to the greatness that is Busted Open Radio with David LaGreca. Shout out to Dave LaGreca. Chris Jericho commented about AEW and the Warner Brothers deal and everything. This was Chris Jericho on Busted Open.
We proved a lot of so-called experts. We made them look like idiots. We knew what was going on with this. The landscape changes constantly. Numbers go up, numbers go down. But the overall demo of what AEW brings to the table as a live sporting event is invaluable. So we knew that it was something that people would want to be involved with and be a part of. And Warner Brothers Discovery didn't want to let us go anywhere. And you can see, I mean, $185 million a year for a company that's only been going for 5 years. That's never happened before, ever. Obviously, WWE is the standard, the gold standard. They didn't have a deal like that 5 years in. Nobody else has. So with all the growing pains, good and bad, that AEW has, we're still such a young company. And that, to me, showed that we have a real commitment to, we're not going anywhere. Tony Khan's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, much to some people's chagrin, and neither is the rest of the company. And I think it's going to be a really great next 3 to 5 years. And listen, and Tommy and Bully know, there's nothing worse than if AEW didn't get a great television deal. There's nothing better for the business, the fans, for you guys, for AEW to be thriving and to be healthy. And we are. I think.
The only reason I say this is because diminished attendance, ratings going down. Like, I'm happy they got the deal, but Chris, like, hello. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, WWF was established in 1953.
That's correct. Vince McMahon Jr. Yep. Not Vince McMahon Jr. Sr., excuse me.
5 years in would have been 1958. Do you know what the value of the company would have had to have had been at that time?
Right. When you're pushing people like
probably about $10,000.
I mean, probably.
The entire, maybe even less than that. But I'm talking about the entire wrestling company. We're talking about the NWA, which is close to nearly 100 years old.
Right.
Okay, it's literally three quarters of a century old. Okay. And it's hard for us to fathom that, you know, a company has been around that long. Now we're talking about, if he's talking about money and he's talking about, and I love you, Chris, I really, really do. I have a lot of respect for you. But the thing is that when you're talking about $1 billion as far as like AEW getting, do you know that TNT, do you know that Warner Brothers Discovery is losing the NBA to Amazon?
Yep, that's correct.
Do you understand that the fact that TNT, TBS, Warner Brothers Discovery is scattering to try and find live TV? You would have had the NBA stayed on TNT and TBS, you know, or on TNT specifically, or just in general. I'm sorry, Chris, you wouldn't have gotten 180 million, or AEW would not have gotten $180 million.
No, not at all.
I'm sorry, they wouldn't have. They would have had to continue to keep shipping or shopping out their everything, because Warner Brothers Discovery probably would have kept them, but they wouldn't have wanted to spend that much money for them. Because they would have spent, and now mind you, we're talking about $1 billion for the NBA. Billion. I mean, I would think it was like 4 or 5 or 6 billion was how much Amazon paid for them.
That's correct.
To get the exclusive rights, I think for like 20 years or something, like, or 18
it's about
years.
4 billion, yeah.
Yeah. So we're specifically talking about AEW getting what the NBA would be chump change to what the NBA is getting. You know, and it's just that Warner Brothers Discovery wanted live TV. They wanted specifically live sports for the TV, for their TV rights. They have hockey, but they don't have enough hockey like ESPN does, who took a lot of the rights for hockey. But that's not enough for them. They wanted more. They wanted to continually build their TNT sports product. But now they're scattering to find everything. I find something, but I'm sorry, but what came of it was the fact that they got desperate. They saw this company, it's weekly live TV, as Chris said. They're going to take advantage of it. And if they have to do a couple more shows, you know, a week, then that's what they'll do. And they'll pay for it.
I think the money, like you mentioned, in the 50s would have been senior into how people just, again, it's the WWE's been a long time, and, you know, they got a head start over AEW. But I'm like, you can definitely see the decline, the rise and decline of AEW from 2019 to 2024. We talk about it all the time. And I mean, you really look at just how much like they're paying, like you mentioned. But I mean, adding more shows from, like, they're going to replace Rampage, and we're going to have Shockwave now, which, I mean, y'all can barely like hold up with Collision with their ratings. It's like you replace Rampage and you put in Shockwave, and it's like, all right, whatever. But, you know, that's AEW. They're going to do more shows, and they're going to do more and more with that money. Yeah. And speaking of more of that money, yeah. This is a money moment, as Bully Ray talks about Stephanie Vacker and Julia, chef's kiss of these two, from what happened with them on NXT. And here we go, back to some more NXT talk.
Both women held the championship, and that was a great shot. That was a great moment, a foreshadowing moment of what we have to come. It looks like we're rounding out the top of the women's division in NXT with Stephanie, Julia, Cora, and Roxanne. I like this. What they should be doing with Roxanne. Should Roxanne be moving on? Should she be staying? My opinion is that unless you have something definitive for Roxanne, keep her right where she is. It's only going to benefit the women's division in NXT right now. And I think she will be the glue that holds everything together. I think we're going to get some really strong matches out of, obviously, Roxanne and Julia, Roxanne and Stephanie Vaquer. We'll get some good tag matches. We'll get some good scenarios. And I think these four women will work well with each other. And I like what I saw from the four of them tonight. Both women.
that was spot on of what we're going to get with the future of these women. Like, seriously, like, I'm excited for Stephanie Vacker, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, and Julia to have a 4-way, to have some type of mix. I really did enjoy that segment. It really speaks wonders for how the women's division, like Bully say, is going to go in the forefront and moving forward. I will say this, and I'm going to put it to the forefront because this also ties into it. Did you see dumbass Mercedes Moné is like, well, my match with her is the reason why she got signed, not the fact that she always wanted to be in WWE and the fact that, she had a tryout, but then years later, boom, here she is. So we'll touch upon both. A, the fact that this angle was awesome, and B, Mercedes Moné taking credit for Stephanie Vacker getting signed. We'll start with A. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but Mercedes is an afterthought in WWE.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying.
Point blank. You can rag on the company all you want. You can rag about or you could talk about how great you are, or how amazing you are, or how many championships you won. I'm sorry, but you're replaceable. And you've been replaced tenfold over by so many talented women who weren't even wrestlers 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Jada Parker.
And you've been replaced by talent that is just there. Yes, Jada Parker is just one of many. Lash Legend is another. You know what? And the list is going to continue to keep building and building and building. You want to know why? Because they don't need you. And quite frankly, as much as you could sit there and say, well, I didn't need them. Okay. Well, how the hell did you start your career, young lady?
WWE.
Where did you start your career, young lady?
WWE.
Let me guess. NXT is where you cut your teeth. You ended up in a feud with Charlotte Flair, where you guys were playing hot potato with a title for literally 3 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me you were this megastar, superstar, or whatever.
You and Bailey.
Baby, they made you.
Mm-hmm.
They made you into that. It ain't one of those, oh, hey, I'm this and blah, blah, blah. Baby, you weren't that when you were there. You wouldn't have been what you are without them. Plain and simple.
And until she started doing the boss gimmick in NXT, she was just another girl that was there. Let's put it in the forefront. Until she started doing the boss gimmick, she was just there.
Exactly.
That was it. But speaking of there again, how awesome was this to see these 4 in the ring? And Stephanie Vacker and Julia, when that match happens, is going to be awesome. But I'm loving this, man. I'm loving this.
And I'm loving the fact that we got those 4 in the ring. And it's great to see Cora back. It's great to see that she was in that position before she had the knee injury, before she ended up having to take time off to have surgery to recover and everything. It's great to see her back, to see her in that ring with these 3 other women. That it's just amazing. And I absolutely love the vignettes for Delta coming to WWE. Oh my God, I can't wait for that one too.
That's what I'm saying. You have so many talent, and I'll mention back Mercedes real quickly that, have replaced her, and you have so many people coming in that are just younger or just who are more hungry, and the next in line athletes like an Izzy Dame or any woman like the Brindley Reeses, who have a lot of potential going into this. Just let them do it, man. I mean, you have Jasmine Nix, who's a next in line talent, who's in one of the things with the Fatal Influence with her, and Fallon Henley and JC Jane, who can teach her a lot. So you have all these women and Stephanie Vacker and Julie again at the forefront with Cora and Roxanne. You have a strong division here. You have future women's champions. You have people in the tag division. You have the North American Women's Championship with Kailani Jordan, and you have Sol Ruka, and you have this woman and that woman. This is what we have, and this is going to be a staple from years and years and years to sound like Barry White, years and years and years to come. So, I mean, let's fucking go with the NXT.
My darling, can't get enough of your love, baby.
Practice what you preach, goddammit. So,
exactly.
Anyway, someone who should practice what they preach. Bro, why are these people crying? Why are we crying in our segments, bro? Why are all these sissy Marys constantly crying, bro? And well, Rikishi,
Man, I ain't crying.
yeah, I hate crying in wrestling, bro. So Rikishi, you look fly today, Rikishi, addressed Vince Russo and what he had to say about his son Jay. Yeet. And the opening segment of him talking about winning the Intercontinental Championship from Braun Baker. Here's Rikishi. Here we go.
Former WCW champion Vince Russo says he could not understand why Jey Uso became so emotional during his first segment as WWE Intercontinental Champion on Raw. Russo said, "I don't understand this. The dude was so emotional he could barely speak. I don't understand. This is a job. The title is a prop. For the life of me, I don't understand how these wrestlers get emotional over winning a prop. Jey Uso has been around forever. Quote.
Okay, well, let me answer that. And if you listen, Russo, first of all, you can go yourself.
Yeet.
Yeet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thumbs up, Rikishi. First of all, that is why people don't like you, Vince Russo. It was a prop, bro. The prop. How can you get upset for winning a prop? The significance, the symbolism of what that championship represents to the wrestlers in the story. Okay? Stop it. All right? This was a great moment for Jay. Talk about doing it for his mama and his family and what led to Braun Breaker coming out and being respectful. And I will equate this because I'm going to play Chris Statlander coming up next, and then we'll get back to this. This is how you tell a story, as we saw tonight on Raw, because this was the big thing, Paul. Braun Breaker said, hey, I gave him respect. He didn't give me the proper respect back. I don't need my family because I'm making my own mark by myself. I don't need the Steiner name. You need to rely on your family, which they showed Rikishi and Jimmy. They showed the Anoa'i family, and I'm going to come back and take back my Intercontinental Championship because you don't respect me and you rely on your family. I don't need my family. You leech off your family. Boom. Now I know why Braun Breaker turned back on Jey Uso after he respected him the week forward. Perfect. And we'll get to Statlander in a second. But in this particular scenario, Rikishi is in the right. Vince Russo could really fuck to the left, fuck to the right, spin around, go fuck himself tonight. Your thoughts on Rikishi's clapback at Vince Russo for what he said about the emotion that went into that opening segment with Jey Uso in the Intercontinental Championship?
It mind boggles me how Vince Russo is still actively talking shit on podcasts, his own podcast, and I get it, people want to pay whatever to hear him talk shit, but if you want to hear people talk shit, come over here. We talk shit too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're gonna start charging people too, you know what I'm saying? Because we could talk shit all we want and then start charging people to come in, and then we can get paid, you know what I'm saying? Look, Vince Russo is just a fucking dumbass. Just plain and simple. Rikishi's in the right. If you think that, then let's go start telling, NBA players it's just a prop. It's not anything.
It's a trophy.
Let's go talk, let's go tell Michael Jordan, those MVPs you won. That's just prop, man. Why are you crying? The same thing with everybody, anybody who wins a sport. It's just a prop. You know what? You're not really winning anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just when a football player, it's like I'll quote Angels in the Outfield. Yes, I'm going back to the Disney side. When a football player goes down to one knee after scoring a touchdown and thanking God, it's just a game. It's just a game. Why is it
a game? There ain't no crying in baseball.
Thank you, A League of Their Own. Oh my God. So with that being said, and just the dumbassery of Vince Russo, we do have some wholesome moments before we get to these two clips. Here it is, and I sent this to you, and I loved it just because Miles Bourne and Randy Orton, this was so cool.
Let's see what you got. Go ahead. Again. There you go.
That's cool. Just because they look like father and son, and that's Randy helping out the young talent, much like he did with Javon. That is cool. You love to see that.
You know what? We talk about how mature a lot of these wrestlers, a lot of the older wrestlers, and I don't want to call Randy old because hell, that would make me call me old because Randy's younger than me, so's Phil. God damn, I'm just starting to think about it. Fuck, all these wrestlers that I liked are all the same age as me. You know what? Fuck it, I'm done doing this. Okay, well I gotta go. No, I'm saying that's you get wholesome things like that, and that's beautiful. The fact that I'll take the Undertaker for instance. It's like he's been talking a lot lately about how the older generation used to tell the younger generation, there were certain things that they needed to do, act a certain way, and be a certain way towards like the older generation. We're here to teach you, but you have to respect your elders. But that's kind of everything. With the family dynamic, you respect your elders. But it's also good when they come back and they can be these wrestlers. And I mean, we're talking about the guys we grew up with, and we talk about how the guys like Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, how they come back and they start, telling these younger generation wrestlers and start showing them, these are the guys that looked up to them. These are the same wrestlers that when they were in their prime and running through all these titles, these are the same kids that were watching them growing up. So it's great that they're giving back. It's great to see them giving back to them, showing them the love and respect and how to work things. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed wholeheartedly. And I mean, you look at John Cena when he first came in and he's wrestling Kurt Angle on SmackDown and The Undertaker giving him that nice job and boom. Like that stuff is very wholesome. And I mean, you look at everything that comes into fruition from our favorite wrestlers. I mean, for myself, starting watching wrestling in the Ruthless Aggression era from 2002 to 2024, those guys coming in, like you mentioned, the Cenas, the Ortons, the Batistas, the Brock Lesnars, and everyone. I mean, this is what it's all about, really helping out the next generation. And again, stuff like that you love to see. And it goes and it's precedence. It takes precedence over anything because, yes, it's great to put on this presentation, but if you're not helping people along the way and really putting them into fruition of how to tell a good story and how to put on a great event, then that's how you do it, man. There's so many different keen elements and subtleties, intricacies, and nuances. I say it every time, but it's so very much accurate in what we get to see in today's presentation of professional wrestling and as a whole in itself. So with that being said, we'll have 2 more busted open clips, and then we'll get to AEW and the bullshittery that we're going to discuss here in today's forum. So let's go over here with our girl, Denise. Shout out to Denise and Matt Camp.
The Rock becoming a heel and leaning into that is what makes for the best product. Rock being a heel versus a potentially babyface Roman Reigns. Rock being a heel versus a babyface Cody Rhodes. Those are the money matches. Rock gets a pop when he comes out because he's The Rock. That's gonna get a pop every single time. That doesn't mean he's a babyface. That just means people are excited to see one of the greatest of all time, and his presence looms large. He's not a babyface. He shouldn't be a babyface. The best way for The Rock to contribute to this feud is to be the final boss, giving the orders out to Solo, to Jacob, to the Gorillas of Destiny. That's what it should be. I don't want him pandering. I don't want to hear that I love the fans. He is best suited to be the highfalutin, better than everyone, more money than everyone, bigger stuff. That doesn't connect with the fans. The fans should want to boo that guy. He got a title that doesn't mean a damn thing other than to him because it makes him feel better that it says People's Champion. All of that stuff should get him booed. The Rock.
That is perfectly and eloquently said from Matt Camp. Boom.
God damn it, Matt. Fucking always saying the shit that I was thinking.
It's how it is. I mean, from what he is with the final boss character and just coming back and what we're going to see, which I'm going to say right now, if there's anything that makes me hyped to see that's going forward, like we mentioned on SmackDown, like Jimmy Uso's back, they lose to Solo. him and Roman get taken out. The "we need help," which sets up War Games, which I'm going to guess since Kevin Owens took out Randy Orton. You could set up so many things with the War Games match being the Bloodline and Kevin Owens against, the Usos when Jay finally gets coerced into being on that team. Not really coerced, but they finally synergized the return of the Usos. Roman, Cody, and maybe Randy Orton, or Roman, Cody, and Sammy. There's so many incarnations that we can have there that they're telling that story beautifully. The Rock being the one to possibly get involved with Survivor Series, giving out more of the orders, leading to WrestleMania till we finally get Roman and Rock. We can get Cody and Rock even before that. I like the direction they're going, but in terms of The Rock, and I love The Rock doing the Rock concerts and stuff, and what can I say except you're welcome? That's cool, but like what Matt Camp said, he's got the People's Championship that only means something to him, and it's great to see the aura of the entrance, but he is that douchebag. He is that heel. He is that Hollywood Rock, and that's the best way that we're seeing right now. There's so many different layers of what we're seeing with this story that's going to go on for months, and I'm here for it.
I have to. I'm gonna do this in parts because
Okay.
I think Jay needs to be involved in it, but I don't think he needs to lose the title in order to be involved in it.
Correct.
Now, I would like for him to get attacked. I would like to see him get attacked and The Rock being the one to put out that hit by God, by Solo, or by Jacob. It doesn't matter, and it could be any of the four, because I want to see that's how I want to see him being portrayed. And Matt is exactly right. Matt is spot on saying that you don't come out pandering to the audience. He should have came out. He should have did some orders, for Solo and them. He should have had some orders for them to attack Roman and Jimmy in the ring, and Cody. That's what should have happened. Instead, you hear if you smell what The Rock is cooking, he comes out, people are applauding, blah blah blah. But if you want that final boss, you need to have that heat. You need to have that point where he's saying, you know what, I'm not here to cater to you guys. I'm not here to pander to you guys. I'm here to come out here and, as he was doing before, to start shit and to finish shit. That's what he should have came out and did. Not this whole 1, 2, 3 cutthroat walk out. Because that meant nothing. Other than him signifying that he's the one that's in charge. And we don't even know if he's running things. We just have him out there that just came out there, did 1, 2, 3 cutthroat and then walk away. So we don't know. We're under the speculation on whether it's him that's giving these orders.
Well, look at Kevin Owens. How do we not know that The Rock is giving Kevin Owens the orders to attack Cody in the parking lot, attack The Rock got into his head? Or maybe this is just Kevin Owens like, you know what, fuck this. And maybe the enemy was better than who I am with, because, maybe the bloodline, this new bloodline, is actually right. You know what I'm saying? And maybe I'm starting to listen and gravitate towards them. There's so many different layers that you can put into that now with Kevin Owens in the mix on the other side, so to speak. So, yeah, as long as, the pop was cool, but that was cool for that moment. That's not what the final boss character should be. And I'm looking forward to starting shit and finishing shit and just Rock being that final boss. And I mean, speaking of the final.
Don't want none, there won't be none.
There won't none, don't be none. Yes, I like your style. So one more from Matt Kemp before we get into the debauchery and more fun stuff within today's program, folks. Making sense, psychology, it's professional wrestling. Here's one final clip of Matt Kemp on Busted Open.
You don't traditionally end a pay-per-view, PLE, whatever, on that much of a negative, hostile note. This was not just any show. This was the farewell to Bryan. I think most people, I don't have the attendance number right in front of me, but the house looked good. It was
about 8,000.
Okay, the house looked good though on TV. It sounded good for the most part. I think most of those 8,000 that were there probably in their heart of hearts knew Bryan's going to lose, and this is the last match, and we're in his home state, and yada yada yada. And so there's a certain expectation there. He can, of course, lose. You do the job as you do in wrestling. and you look up the lights and the title goes to somebody else. But I still think, like me, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to lose, but somehow there's going to be something post-match that at least it's like, hey, waving goodbye. Even at the very least, even if some of the waving goodbye even happens to the live crowd off camera just to send them home happy. That was not possible last night when they were close to killing him. There is no coming back out, send the crowd home happy. So I was surprised with how this ended, given the situation and what it would normally call upon in traditional pro wrestling script.
Well, now, that's also going to bring me to the Bully Ray side of things, along with him and Mark Henry. So we will play that clip along with this because Paul Morales has got a lot to say about this main event. So let me pull up Bully and Mark Henry from their Wrestle Dream reactions to Moxley and Bryan Danielson.
We get the finish where Moxley has the sleeper or some type of cravat, sleeper, chokehold, whatever, on Danielson. And Danielson they go down, and Moxley's choking him out with the sleeper, i.e. Adrian Adonis. Good night, Irene. Referee comes, shakes Danielson's arm, looks at his eyes, touches his head, shakes his arm again. Danielson's out. Referee calls for the bell. And the boos started to ring in. My friends, you are entitled to your opinion. Everybody listening right now is entitled to their opinion, whether or not they liked the finish or did not like the finish. You liked the way it tasted. You didn't like the way it tasted. You liked the way it looked. You didn't like the way it looked. You liked the way it sounded. You didn't like the way it sounded. It made you happy. It made you sad. Whatever. You're entitled to your opinion. But allow me to tell you why that finish works. The finish works because it's credible. AEW is priding themselves on being the sport of professional wrestling, where the best wrestle. Well, the best wrestler hooked his best wrestling chokehold on another best wrestler and beat him with it. What's wrong with that?
Not a damn thing.
Mark, not every show has to end on a high note.
There you go. There you go. You said it. I love the explanations, and I love the fact that you took the process of getting there. And every show should not end with shits and giggles, because that's not life, and that's not pro wrestling. And you know what? I don't think I ever seen as many people come out on top at home as they did in Seattle. Swerve came out on top. Darby came out on top. Like, they had things. I don't think I ever lost. I don't think I ever won a match in Austin. I barely won a match in Houston or Dallas. Barely.
Poor JR got killed every time we went to Oklahoma.
Every time somebody chokeslammed his ass.
Yep.
Verbally abused him. That's what you do.
So this was a credible finish, just like an MMA finish. Moxley prides himself on doing this MMA type stuff on the side, whether it's blood sport, which is kind of like that work, shoot, MMA style, or actually like doing judo or some of these MMA-esque things that he does. That is a legitimate finish. And sometimes in an MMA match, the guy catches a choke, the girl catches a choke, the match is over, end of story.
Over.
So your thoughts? Well, I'm going to pull this up because Paul Morales, ladies and gentlemen, put out a tweet, my own co-host here. This was the worst fucking shit show I've ever seen, and an even worse fucking ending. So you heard both sides from Matt Kemp, you heard from Bully, and you heard from Mark Henry. Paul, take it away.
Okay, so I have to reiterate something as far as like this goes. I thought the match in particular was great. The match itself. I didn't care for the ending. Now, yes, as Bully Ray elaborated and said, everybody is entitled to their opinion, and I have mine. The only thing is like I don't have an issue with angles where guys get beat up, beat up so bad to where you get an ambulance that comes out and they have to take them away. I don't have a problem with that. But when you make it look like as if everybody that came out looked weak as all hell. I get it. Daniel's one of those selfless guys. He's one of those selfless guys that wants to put over for the best for the business. He wants to do for the business and put over the next people that come around. Like the people did for him before that. The people did before him. Did for him. The Triple H, the Batista, the Randy Orton, those guys putting him over at WrestleMania. In that moment at WrestleMania 30, them putting him over to make him be who he is now. Not to say that he wasn't that before, but I mean to put him on that other level. The guys that put him over, and that's what he's doing with Mox, and that's what he's doing with the BCC. We know that. But I just didn't care for that part of pretty much trying to kill him. I mean, what the hell? And I believe that it was either Mark or Bully that actually pointed it out. That it was either you put the bag at that the bag didn't need to have any significance before this match. If they just would have specifically did it just for this match to try and just end it, to try and make people believe like, oh my God, they're gonna kill him with a bag, then that would have made sense. But you did it like a couple of weeks ago when they at All Out, it was All Out. When he did it, and it was like it just to do it a second time just makes no sense. But had they just did it here, it would have been. I think it would have been pretty much okay. I got the heel turns. I got Wheeler Yuta turning. I got Darby Allin being taped to the corner. The fact that he was getting a lap dance by Marina Shafir, and Orange Cassidy coming out. It's Jeff Jarrett coming out. It took me watching it. I did exactly what Bully said. Bully said he watched it a second time because he heard he read and what everybody was saying. So he had to watch it a second time. So I took his advice and I watched it a second time. The match was great. It told the story, and that was what I was compelled with. It's just, I want to say it was just a lot of extracurricular stuff that just didn't need to go that way. Because if you're going to take him out, and mind you, he's leaving from being a full-time wrestler. Doesn't mean that he's not going to come back and do some part-time work. It just means that he's not going to be a full-time wrestler. That's something that people have to understand.
And distinguish.
He's going away for a while because he's going to go have neck surgery. Whether he comes back or not, we have no idea. Or whether he's going to be 100%, we have no idea. So we're taking it as it is. So I'm hoping when he does come back, when he does recover and he does come back, I'm hoping that 1, Moxley is still there. 2, I'm hoping the BCC is still together. I'm still hoping that in the aspect, we won't know how this transpires until Wednesday, because you need to follow this up. You need to continue to follow this up with the guys that came in, the Darby Allins, the Orange Cassidys, the Jeff Jarretts, the guys that came out. You need to continue this. You need to continue this story, because if we come to Wednesday, the next 2 I'll say the next 3 Wednesdays up until whenever their next pay-per-view is. All I'm saying is that if you don't follow this up with something credible, then everything you did to Bryan means absolutely shit. Period.
I'm right there with you because again, great match, much like Paul said. Working over the neck, the pile driver on the announce table, the pile drivers, the explosion of the concrete, everything made sense. For me, it's like, all right, Wheeler Yuta's going to turn because Moxley's calling him soft, and he has to prove his loyalty to Moxley and Claudio and Pac, and that they're the trios champions. He turns on Bryan, puts the bag over him. Darby's in the corner, like Paul mentioned. And for me, it's like, Wheeler was going to do it. And then the whole locker room emptied. And then you have that uneasy feeling of just, the crowd's in shock. Excalibur is literally crying on commentary for what they just did to Bryan Danielson. Everybody's face is disheveled. And then they stretcher Bryan out. I mean, much like you said, it's like if it leads to Moxley and Darby Allin at Full Gear, which I think that's where we're going. But you have to follow up on this because if you don't follow up with it, it means nothing. If it's just to get to Darby Allin and Moxley, and it's just like, okay, it's like we kind of already know. Like, do something with a little more oomph to give us, like, why. All we really know is, just the fact that, we're not in control anymore. You know what I'm saying? This has to be done. I'm saving you from yourself, Bryan. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think for me, the ending was kind of like, all right, whatever. Follow up on it, but the match itself I enjoyed because it is Bryan Danielson, it is Jon Moxley. They have history from their tenure in WWE. They have history here at the Blackpool Combat Club. From story perspective, cool. Ending, meh. I want to see how they follow up with it on Wednesday. I agree.
The reason why I said that I didn't like the rest of the show is because it was a lot of just matches that were just thrown together. And it's like usually when we go into pay-per-views or we usually go into PLEs, pay-per-views, whatever an event, it's like you need to have some sort of story going into them, and if you're not feeling a lot of these things with stories, then it's just like, what's the point on having them? What's the point on having the matches? Now I get it. I get the lucha match that I can't even remember the guys' names, but
Beast Mortos and Hologram.
Okay, now I get that one because you just signed to Fox with Fox Sports Mexico, so you just wanted to have representation. I completely get that. Shout out to Luke Owen on Wrestle Talk, who actually pointed that out to me because I had no idea why they were there. I didn't even realize that till this morning as to why that match was on there. I was just like, well, who the hell are these guys and why are they on there? And it didn't make sense until he said something, but thank you, Luke, for pointing that out to me, because I'm a dumbass. But anyways, all I'm saying is like, it just seemed like it was filler. Why Private Party didn't win the titles, that also just mind boggled the hell out of me because I don't know. And I know everybody says, because the EVPs are pulling their weight or whatever, or pulling their executive cards, and they don't want to release them, but they're also not doing anything either. If this company is going to be driven by anything, it's like, it's literally face heavy for it. The whole company is literally face heavy because you have a lot more faces in the company than you do heels. But that's because Tony has allowed more people to be faces than heels in this company. It just seems that way to me.
I'll add on to your point. So for me, this match, like you mentioned, well, I'm going to say this. I think what I hated about the story with Hologram and Mortos, good match, but you don't start a feud with a 2 out of 3 falls match. And also the fact that you literally just bait and switched Lance Archer to go to the Don Callis family. And now Jake the Snake Roberts is managing LFI for no reason. It's like, what? And that kind of took me out of it. And I mean, I'll even mention like Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Konosuke Takeshita. You knew they were going to do the Super Junior spot again. I mean, the match had some nice aerial maneuvers, but I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew Kyle Fletcher was going to turn on Will Ospreay, and now we're going to have the Battle of Aussie Open going into Full Gear. I think, all right. And I'm going to start the story here about how this makes no goddamn sense. You had Jack Perry retain against Katsuyori Shibata. You have him attacking him afterwards. And then here comes Daniel Garcia. And you have the stare down with Jungle Boy. And then here comes MJF, who takes out Daniel Garcia with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And then we get the return of Adam Cole, Bebe.
That was such a lengthy nonsense. Something, again, back to, you had, this could have happened on Dynamite.
It's not even that.
No, it is that, because it's like you had the match, you had Daniel Bryan or Daniel Garcia come out,
right?
To save him. You could have had that moment with him and Jungle Boy. Why did MJF have to come back at the pay-per-view? Why couldn't he come back on Dynamite? Why couldn't you have, again, back to this match, this particular match could have been on Dynamite, and you could have had all this on Dynamite. You didn't need it in a pay-per-view. You didn't. You really, truly didn't, unless it actually means something. That's my gripe with it. It's like it meant nothing, which is, it blows my fucking mind as to why you ended up having a segment in the middle of the fucking show with
Swerve.
with Swerve and the Hurt Syndicate, and them needing an answer. Why did it have to be on there? Why couldn't it have been on Dynamite? And it's like, it irks the shit out of me why you cannot just have those things on the show and have matches on your fucking on your pay-per-views.
So I will rephrase to what Paul Morales said. Yes, when I say it's not just that, I mean, it is very important. Like Robert Davis, shout out to our boy Robert Davis, because we did it in our predictions. We all had this discussion. Robert has even said that this pay-per-view was kind of ass because a lot of these matches didn't need to be on the pay-per-view. This one in particular, because, I mean, I understand that you want Swerve to get the hometown, crowd behind him with MVP and Shelton Benjamin. But the fact that they did a backstage segment with Leo Rush saying he's all elite again, and then there's an interaction, and you literally just rush Shelton Benjamin's in-ring return on Dynamite so he can wrestle Leo Rush, much like the aforementioned Mercedes Moné, who wasn't even on this fucking card. She has an interaction with Queen Aminata on the 0 hour, and then Tony goes, I'm going to have Mercedes Moné defend the TBS title against fucking Queen Aminata on Dynamite. And then, after Jay White, who shockingly beats Hangman Adam Page, one of the first people he gets for his revenge on, revenge number 2 is going to happen on Dynamite as Jay White goes up against Christian Cage. We're flying by the seat of our pants. Also with the Adam Cole thing. Adam Cole, who was a heel, who is a heel. He's in the Undisputed Kingdom, or we're just going to have Roddy and fucking the Kingdom there. He's a heel. And this ended a dynasty when MJF came back, just like Triple H hits the brainbuster on Adam Cole, got his revenge for costing him the title and stringing him along. He was the devil. That's where it ended. Adam Cole, the last time we saw him was Wardlow. You're going to beat Samoa Joe, and you're going to win the title, and then you're going to hand it to me. Wardlow gets squashed. Adam Cole is pissed. Why? If there's any match or feud we should have, it should be Adam Cole and Wardlow. We don't even address the fact that he's not with the Undisputed Kingdom. It's just, I'm back in AEW. Here I am, and I'm coming for you, MJF. Why? Why are you coming for him? This ended months ago. Why are we doing this again? And then you have MJF doing the hot step, making fun of him for his leg and knee, and then he runs away. We don't need to be doing this again. This was done. And now we're just doing it with a reverse where MJF's the heel and now Adam Cole's the babyface.
See, now you're blaming Jimmy Jacobs for all the fucking fuckery that goes on in the company.
Jacobs. God damn it.
Yeah, goddamn you, Jimmy Jacobs. You know what? This is all your fault.
Your fault,
we all
Jimmy
know it's fucking Tony. We all know that it's fucking Tony, and you can't make this shit up. It's like nothing makes fucking sense. I really, really hope this is the hard reset. I really, really hope that AEW. I really hope Tony gets it into his head that this is their hard reset. This is their moment to do the hard reset for the company and just say, look, We just fired one person at a creative. Now we're going to go in a different direction, because I really, really hope that for the sake of what a lot of wrestling fans, now I'm not saying AEW fans, because somehow they're a bunch of pain in the asses who just seem to think that they know better than everybody else.
Did you see the bullshit, by the way, what they did? So some AEW fans, they put the photo of the Daniel Garcia Jungle Boy stare down that we saw at the pay-per-view, and somebody wrote, you think you're special, you do. Pretty much equating it to the hype video of The Rock and Stone Cold going into WrestleMania 17 with that stare down. Are you out of your fucking mind? You should not be comparing The Rock and Stone Cold with Jungle Boy and Daniel Garcia stare down. Are you out of your fucking mind? It's like when Swerve said that him and Hangman Page's feud is like The Rock and Stone Cold. You can miss me with that bullshit. So this also pertains to and we'll get to Chris Statlander in a second, but this also pertains to a lot of the stuff we saw in the 0 Hour, stuff that should have been on Dynamite. So you have Massey and Mansoor, Mason Madden and Mansoor against the Acclaimed for bullshit. And how do we pay this off? We have the third man in our corner. And I know he has had some health issues. He almost died. I'm glad he is still on this earth with us, because that man has done a lot in his career, from entertaining characters, from being in the military and the Navy, being a bodyguard, American Gladiators, being a cop. Man has done a lot in his life, but this man is 63 years old. They bring in Rico! 63-year-old Rico said, "You look so good to me," to quote the infamous Billy and Chuck theme. And AEW puts out, after 22 years, Billy Gunn finally gets his revenge on Rico. Rico takes a famouser. So because it's the 22-year anniversary of the Billy and Chuck wedding, we had Rico get involved to help the former Maximum Male models. And it's like, Rico, Tony's like, this happened 22 years ago. We're going to finish it here in AEW. And Rico got a payday to take a fucking famouser from Billy Gunn after 22 years to get involved in this nonsensical, stupid feud that the Acclaim were going for the tag titles and going against FTR. And now they're going against the goddamn Maximum Male Model collection, the MXM collection. And it made no damn sense. And this is what also got everybody talking, because on the 0 Hour, we had Anna Jay against Harley Cameron. Why? Who the fuck knows? And this is what everybody's talking about. The referee had to put Harley's shoulder down to make the count. I watched this live and in living color. So here's the spot that got everybody talking.
You can do what you want to do.
Living color. He literally, Mike Posey put her fucking shoulder down because it was up. And this got Jimmy Cordera's upset. This got a lot of people like fucking Botch. What were your thoughts on this? Because my God, they had to put her fucking shoulder down. Harley Cameron, who's had 16 matches in this company.
And she's had matches in other companies too. So the fact that it wasn't even that. It's like back to things that should be on like Rampage or fucking Collision, or these matches do not need to be on pay-per-views. Tony, matches that you're just throwing together for the sake of having a 8-hour fucking pay-per-view don't need to be on your fucking show. 7, 6, 7, 8 matches at that. That's it. Stop trying to do this. Oh, well, I'm going to do a 0 hour, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Just because you're trying to satisfy people for the sake of trying to be their best friend. You're doing it for business. Business as an aspect. People don't need to be at fucking shows for 8 fucking hours.
Yep.
People do not want to be sitting in their fucking seats for 8 fucking hours once a fucking month because you, for some godforsaken reason, can't seem to just compress a fucking good pay-per-view into 6 fucking matches. For some dumbass reason, you want to go up to like 11, 12 matches because I'm doing it for the sickos. Because because I'm fucking just a dumbass and I'm trying to fucking please all these people that I have under contract. Well, where the fuck is Wardlow?
That could be mentioned. Adam Cole and Wardlow should be the feud.
Where the hell are all these people that you signed that all of a sudden just disappeared?
Powerhouse Hobbs.
Powerhouse Hobbs is another fucking name. Why are they not being showcased? This is just utter bullshit. And if you want to have all these matches, fine, whatever.
13 matches.
If you want to have 13, 14, if you want to be there for the next fucking 18 days fucking trying to do whatever the fuck you're trying to accomplish just to have fucking people there, people are going to get tired of the bullshit.
This show, the 0 Hour, literally started on their YouTube at 6:30 with 4 fucking matches on it. We had Atlantis Jr. lose the Ring of Honor television title to Brian Cage. Why? I don't know. You had Orange Cassidy and the Kyle O'Reilly and the Outrunners against the Dark Order and the fucking, oh god, I don't even remember who the other team was. No, the premier athletes, friggin' Tony Nese and Ara Davari. Like that was
again, back to having all these fucking matches for no fucking reason.
Yep, exactly.
Again, things that should be on fucking Collision or Rampage or on Dynamite. They're just there.
And you actually made a point too as well, because besides the fact that, folks, this show was literally like 6 hours. You mentioned the Young Bucks and Private Party. I'll go back to that. I mean, Will Ospreay losing to Takeshita, you knew that was coming. That was predictable with Kyle Fletcher. I mean, a lot of these matches, and in particular the tag titles, Private Party, I know they lost, and personally, I think they should have won too as well. They did the build-up with Amazing Red at House of Glory. You had Amazing Red, their trainer, hyping them up, right? They're hyping Private Party up. And it plays upon the anniversary of when they beat them for 5 years ago. Like, the fact that they're showing Stokely Hathaway, which I'll get into this in a minute, but Stokely Hathaway, who is now looking to be their manager after the nonsensical way of not even explaining why he's no longer with Chris Statlander. You have Private Party, and I can tell the direction they're going. They're going to make Private Party heel, and they're going to give in to Stokely Hathaway. But why is that necessary? Why could we just have them after 5 years? Then finally, they've got one over on the Young Bucks again, much like they did in their first encounter on episode 2. Why they couldn't win, I don't know. But that's the story they're telling, and now we're gonna get a fucking heel turn for no goddamn reason. So
yeah, but it's like okay, you're trying to rebuild or whatever the hell you're trying to do with your tag team division, but none of it makes sense when you have faces and you have heels, and then you're trying to turn faces into heels, and then not explaining why they're turning them face or why they're turning heels. Much like this young lady, who all of a sudden we have no idea why the hell she's a fucking heel, why she's a heel or a face,
babyface,
when she was just a fucking heel
a month ago. So
and then Stokely's not there no more. And that wasn't explained.
No.
All of a sudden, it was just like,
no,
poof,
gone.
It's like we're supposed to stand there like Will Smith and just like look into the light and forget.
I like how you
look. I'm not Men in Black. I ain't sitting here like this and like look into the camera.
Somebody did that. So I love that you brought this up. Somebody put a photo, and I have to find it, of Adam Cole coming out, and under it is Will Smith with the friggin' deneuralizer. Friggin' with the Men in Black. Like, we're supposed to fucking forget that Adam Cole was a friggin' heel who took out MJF with the devil mask. Like, it's literally Men in Black. It's what the fuck it is. So we're going to play Chris Statlander's response, and then we'll get into the final two, because they are actually good matches that are going to happen. So here is why they explained on Rampage why Chris Statlander is a babyface again. And Paul, here we go.
Do you ever feel like somewhere along the way you lost who you were? That's exactly what happened to me. When you make a change, you need to think where you went wrong or how you got there. For me, everything went wrong when Mercedes Moné showed up. My best friend became obsessed with her. I let Stokely get in my ear, and I got led down the wrong path. I didn't know who I was, but I did what I needed to do. And on the 5-year anniversary of Dynamite, I was reminded of who I am. I became born again Kristen, and I am the biggest, baddest, strongest woman in AEW. I'm coming for Mercedes Moné and her TBS title.
And people defended this like, well, see, we got the story. This is why it happened. But she literally wanted the CMLL Women's Championship like a month ago. And they have this blood feud. And now it's just like, oh, I went down the wrong path. Oh, Mercedes Moné, my friend became obsessed with her. And goddamn you, Mercedes Moné, for friggin' causing us our friendship. And now I'm born again. Woo! So your thoughts on how they tried to explain this?
Trying to explain the fuckery with more fuckery.
Like what? Like I'm born again, Kristen. Baby.
I'm going to leave it at that. It's trying to explain fuckery with more fuckery. That's all I got, because
that made no damn sense.
That made absolutely no damn sense whatsoever. None.
Nothing at all. And I think that's really all you can say. Speaking of what we all can say here. So news came out that Nakamura will be back January 1st for Pro Wrestling Noah, and he is going to be facing Oka Sakazaki. And I think that's going to be great. More Shinsuke Nakamura and Pro Wrestling Noah. And people like, oh, but he can't even get booked on WWE. You do realize that WWE has a working relationship with Pro Wrestling Noah. Nakamura lives in Japan. And, well, this is great for more representation for Pro Wrestling Noah, much like when AJ Styles wrestled Naomichi Marufuji. That would be like saying, oh, Joe Hendry's on NXT too much. Why is he on TNA? They have a working relationship with NXT. People, they got working relationships. You saw Grayson Waller wrestle on a local promotion in Australia. You see friggin' Finn Balor and JD McDonough going over to Ireland. This is why we have working relationships.
Kofi Kingston just wrestled for a promotion in Chicago.
Yeah,
it's you know what? And here's the thing is that Nakamura not being a full-time wrestler at the age that he is fine.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is that he also has a school where he teaches that. So he has students that he's watching over. So if they're going, if anything, they're probably going to end up in Pro Wrestling Noah. So that's where I believe he has one school here in the States and he has one in Japan. So heck, if he's going back and forth and he's teaching guys, who are we to freaking argue? Man's doing his work and he's getting paid. What Booker T did the exact same thing.
Yeah, he commentates and he trains a reality of wrestling like his school.
Yeah, exactly.
And I look at it like this when people talk about AJ Styles not being used. I mean, we got the great Carmelo Hayes moment with him, and unfortunately he got injured in the match, and I hope speedy recovery to AJ. I hope to see him back soon, which is a very just bad timing because he comes back and then unfortunately that freak accident happens. But like with AJ Styles, like he doesn't need to be full-time. Like he's helping his kids, team. He's coaching. I think that's what he wants to be. He wants to spend time with his family. He wants to help coach his kid. He wants to go to the football games. And I mean, when AJ Styles' career is over, I could definitely see him much like Punk in NXT, him being like a producer, him coaching a lot of these kids. So it's like, folks, stop bitching about these people not being on TV. They're getting the rest. If this was Vince McMahon, they would be out there all the damn time, like Randy Orton, friggin' like my back hurts, but no, we need you for this, Randy. Like it's a new regime. It's a new time. People don't need to be working all the goddamn time.
Yeah, and they're making their money, but not by the appearances that they make in the ring.
Huh?
But they also make significant appearances outside the ring.
Exactly. Speaking of significant appearances, Paul is very big into Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, which I am too as well, just to see these shows. And, well, I will say this. They did announce, and Paul brought this to my attention, so I wanted to touch upon it, Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander for the AEW International Championship. Some more AEW representation on this show, much like we have Athena and Giselle Shaw for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. We have Takeshita and Josh Alexander, which this is huge because you got a TNA wrestler against an AEW wrestler, and Josh Alexander is very tight with Scott D'Amore. And when you think of Canada, you think of the North with him and All Ego Ethan Page. But these two are going to have a friggin' barn burner, man. The Walking Weapon and Konosuke Takeshita.
Yeah, and then Bully Ray this morning actually talked about his match, and he's actually facing the modern day Maharaja. Shout out to freaking the RWT Kingpin, freaking Amir Blackbane Costello, because that's his homie. He's facing him in a tables match, at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's. Their premiere is this weekend, so give it a watch on Thriller TV, on Thriller. Check them out. You know what? 2-night event, the 19th and the 20th.
You got Mike Bailey Speedball against El Phantasmo. Like, the fact that we're getting all these matches, like, even like you mentioned, Bully Ray and Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal's finding work outside of WWE. He did his thing in GCW. I can see him going to TNA, but him working another Canadian talent like Jinder Mahal against Bully Ray, I think that's going to be very cool. I know his name now is Raj Desai or something like that, but that's cool, man. Like, we have a lot of great matches like you see here with Phantasmo and Mike Bailey. I am so happy to see Scott D'Amore really kind of reviving Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Like, we had the revival of everything that went down with what was it? Everything from the UK promotion, not Rev Pro, not ICW.
Progress?
No, not Progress. The other one, World of Sport.
World of Sport. Yeah.
Thank you. Like, to see that revitalization there. Like, I mean, it's just a healthy balance of professional wrestling and its rich history, and you really can't beat that, man.
Yeah. But look, it's just we're getting to see so much of wrestling being evolved into other places, and it's good to see that there are other companies that are profiting off of what other companies are doing, and it's good that TNA and AEW and other promotions are actually lending Scott D'Amore these people, so they can go out and do what they're going to do up there and help them out. It's you scratch my back, we'll scratch your back.
And if you want to help us out and lend a helping hand and scratch our backs and scratch your backs, and great talent coming out and really putting out everybody, we put out these shows each and every week, hence the title of this show, The Weekly Review. And that is all our topics for this week, folks. We'll be back next week. Thankfully, I'm going to say this, Paul, no pay-per-view for another couple weeks because we have NXT. Thank you. We have a break for predictions and talking about
Jeebus.
Yes, we have TakeOver Halloween Havoc coming very, very soon with either Trick Williams against Ethan Page, Javon Evans, or Wesley. We'll find that out tomorrow. We have the Crown Jewel featuring Gunther and Cody Rhodes and Liv Morgan and Nia Jax. A lot of things coming up in the world of professional wrestling, but coming up within the weekly review, we have more coming. And also this week, I will make a mention of this. The three of us got together, that being myself, Paul Morales, and Daniel Crimmins, for Uncaged Season 4. We have one more episode to finish off Dan and our season. You joined us to talk about AO, Chico, Reza Ramon, the life and times of Scott Hall. That will be Hey, yo. So that was a fun episode to record. Thank you for coming on for that, Paul. And before we close this out, man, where can we follow you on the social medias? The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, sir. You can find me on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube under the same name, the Dead Man of RWT. You could also find me on the Facebook page of the RWT Facebook page. Good Lord, I'm gonna go to bed. Look, you can find me on the RWT Facebook page. The link will be below. You could also find all the links, of course, to me on the links below. And of course, you could find this man wherever the hell he's at. But of course, Mr. Michael Larkin, floor is yours.
Take it away. So SM Show on MCL92 on Twitter, Larkin_92 or MLarkinMB on Instagram, StephenMikeShow.com, LFCfights.com, and the YouTube channel, Mike Larkin92. Folks, we are at over 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Let's keep it going. You could get the weekly review with Paul and I. You can get Uncaged with Daniel and I. You can get Deep Into the Heart of Wrestling with Robert and Nicola and I. You can get the Stephen Mike Show. You get the LFC podcast. You get the Pop Culture History podcast. You get On the Mic with Mike. You get that, then more, and then some, and including some of the old school episodes of the Max Wrestling podcast and more. Just stay tuned, locked in, and enjoy this ride that we are on within the YouTube channel and within our various shows. So, with that being said, for Mr. Paul Morales, my name is Mike Larkin. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Weekly Review. And final words to close this: fuck you, Mercedes. Fuck you, Vince Russo.
And fuck you, Tony Khan.